What makes us more sensitive to the spirit and more sensitive to the spiritual realm? You see, the desires of the spirit and the evil desires of the flesh are opposites. They always oppose each other. They're counterparts. The Bible talks about this in Galatians chapter 5. So every time you deny one counterpart's desire, flesh or the spirit, you automatically get more sensitive to the other counterpart's desires, flesh or spirit. And I'll show you an example of high spiritual sensitivity that God showed me in the Bible right now. In Luke chapter 8, verses 42 through 48, Jesus is he's in the midst of a crowd full of people, a multitude. People are calling out to him, pressing on him, touching him, everything, right? And through the midst of all this, there's one woman who had an issue of blood. She comes and touches Jesus' clothes, and he turns towards her because this woman provoked something from within him spiritually. Now, from this story, we often just focus on or notice the strong faith of the woman with the issue of blood. But God is starting to make me realize that there's so many messages and so many revelations in every story of the Bible. So instead of focusing on the strong faith of the woman of the issue of blood, let's try to focus on the high spiritual sensitivity that Jesus is showing just in this story right now. So the Bible says that Jesus had a multitude of people around him. That's more than 100 to 1,000 people all around him, touching him, calling to him, overloading his senses. But even throughout all of that sensory overload, he only followed one touch from one woman because her faith provoked something spiritually from within him. So when the woman touches Jesus, Jesus turns around and says, "Who touched me?" And Peter says, "Master, there's a multitude of people all around you, thronging you, pressing you, and you're asking who touched you?" Now that begs the question. If Jesus is asking who touched me, that means he never even felt the multitude in the first place. He was so sensitive to the spirit, he never felt the multitude at all, overloading his senses. Because why ask who touched you and not ask something like, I don't know, wait, who touched me just now? One spiritual pool beat at least 100 physical pools. Question, if you were Jesus in this scenario, be honest, do you think that you will be able to discern the woman's touch or even feel the woman's touch at all if you were in the crowd full of people? Now, someone could say or someone could argue that maybe the woman with the issue of blood's faith was just so strong, like it was really strong. Jesus didn't even need to be sensitive to the spirit. Anybody could have felt it. I mean, that's the whole point of the story, right? Her faith was just really strong. But I know for a fact that God's pull on our hearts every day is stronger than the woman's pull on Jesus. But the difference is Jesus turned around to the woman. But when God is pulling on our hearts, sometimes we don't even turn around to God. We don't even bother to turn around at all because we're too busy following after the multitudes. See, every day you have the same choice that Jesus had in this scenario, to follow the multitude or to follow the woman. But yours looks like this. You follow the crowd or you follow the pull of faith. You follow the world or you follow Jesus. Every single day, our sensitivity to the spirit should be like Jesus in this scenario. So whenever you're under pressure, your flesh is acting up. There's something that your flesh is trying to get you to do or to not do or to look at, and it feels almost uncontrollable. The urge is crazy. It feels like there's a crowd of people around you, just like how they were around Jesus. But instead, this crowd is trying to get you to sin. This crowd is trying to get you to be lazy. This crowd is trying to get you to hurt yourself. This crowd is trying to get you not to pray. This crowd is trying to get you to depart from the faith. This crowd is trying to get you to turn back to the world. Just remember, in the midst of all that flesh, there's always the willingness of the spirit, always. And if you can latch on to the spirit, if you can latch on to that whisper of energy through the screams of the flesh, just like how Jesus latched onto the woman's pool of faith, the one with issue of blood, over the multitude, then you will grow so much in the sensitivity of the spirit. Because one way to become highly sensitive to the spirit and the realm of the spirit is to follow the subtlety of the spirit during the screams of the flesh, which means to follow the leading of the spirit during the times of temptation, which also means to follow the leading of the spirit to keep praying even though you're tired, which means to follow the leading of the spirit to read the Bible even though you want to watch a movie, which means to follow the leading of the spirit to fast even though you love food. This is what increases sensitivity to the spirit, insensitivity to the flesh, even when it feels like it's outnumbering.